we have CNN's Nima Elgabir live with us from New York. Welcome, Nima, and tell us, which are the risks for the people trying to leave Nigeria on their journey to Europe?
The risks are, they are extraordinarily varied and all equally as horrifying. There is, as you saw, the risk not only of abuse, but also the risk of intentional sex trafficking. That trafficker, that pusherman, he very clearly was implying that I would not only expect to be raped, to be assaulted, but also there was clearly an aspect of prostitution, of forced prostitution. And that's what we've heard time and time again from women who have made this journey, that it was almost considered to be part of their payment, that they would be forced into prostitution, forced to work into these brothels. That's in addition, of course, to the risk of slavery, the risk of death, the risk of death either at sea or over land, and then, of course, the risk of being turned back. And that's something that for a lot of these people, strangely, is almost the most horrifying of risks, that you deal with all of this, that you pay all this money, that you put your life on the line, and that after everything, you still don't make it to Europe, Jenny.
You told us there that you got warned that you may be raped. Can you describe your feelings when you understood the risk that people actually have to face for a better life?
I don't actually think that I can express myself properly, because in that moment it was just the tiniest of glimpses into what it is actually like to, as you said, as you so rightly put it, to take these risks for a better life. Because I could get off the bus at any point in time. I could have attempted to raise the alarm and stop if I truly felt that I was incredibly threatened. So that fear, that horror that I felt when he leant in and said to me, remember, if you are raped, don't struggle. I can't imagine what it must be like for the young women, and it's generally young women, 17, 18, 19, who make this journey, to hear that there is no recourse for them. But when you see where these young men and women come from, then you start to understand. One of the young men in the piece that we did at the end of last year, who was a freed slave, Victory, he returned back to Nigeria, and we were able to go and follow up and see where he was living, and he was actually homeless, because his mother couldn't afford to feed both him and his younger siblings. So he made the conscious choice that he wasn't going to be an added burden to her. So for a lot of these people, when you see where they come from and where they are forced to return to, you understand why they're willing to make these risks.
And the migrants, they travel open. You were on a regular bus. How has the Libyan and the Nigerian government reacted to these reports that you and CNN gave to them?
The Nigerian government says that they are investigating the traffickers, that there are active investigations, that they are in pursuit of the traffickers. But the reality is that all of that is true, but it doesn't seem to be making an impact on the traffickers' ability to operate. You saw in our piece, this was a public bus depot. They were very brazenly using public transport to start the first stages of the journey, because they knew it was easier, more effective to hide in plain sight, and that the authorities are overwhelmed by the scale of this problem. The Nigerians are hoping to set up a donor conference in the coming weeks and months to try and get more resources, more help on the ground, because this needs to be an international effort. This is an incredibly organized, transnational criminal network. I think that's the sense that we have walked away with through our first report on the slave auctions and now this. This is an extraordinarily well-organized criminal network, and it's going to need a lot of coordinated effort on the part of the international community to really tackle